Good morning, everyone, and can you hear me all right? It's okay out there? So, I want to start with an introductory story to this talk. It's maybe a teeny story. Maybe you'll think of it insignificant, but it represents something, a really important turning point in my life. So, at some point, I spent about 3 years doing Zen training at a Zen monastery here in the United States. And it was quite nice, but it's kind of, you fully enter into that world. It's deep in the mountains. There's, it's 14 miles on a very small, steep dirt road to go into the national forest lands in the middle of it, which is this little monastery. And so I was completely involved in that world for 3 years. And Zen training is done with a lot of ritual. And there's a lot of ways in which you engage your body. So, for example, if you want to step into the meditation hall, you always have to step in with a particular foot first. And you can't just step in with that foot and they just kind of casually walk around. You have to have your hands in a particular way as you walk through the meditation hall. And there's a particular way of walking through the meditation hall. You can't just take the shortest route to your seat. You have to kind of take a certain route around the place, and when you get to your seat, you just plop yourself down and kind of pick your nose a little bit and get ready. You would you bow to your seat, and then you turn around and you bow away from your seat, and then there's a particular way in which you turn around and sit down on the seat, and then classically in Zen, there's a particular posture you sit in. And most classically, you sit in full lotus, upright. Most people don't sit in full lotus, but half lotus or quarter lotus or something. But there's a very particular. It's very important that your back be straight, and so there's all these ways of being and being with other people. You walk through the monastery and you see someone, you bow to them, and ideally you would stop and bow. And so, I think I counted how many times I had to bow before 10 o'clock in the morning. And I think I got up to 54 bows and all the things. And that was not including all the people I had to stop to on the path to bow to. And there were some people, including me occasionally, who would see someone coming down there, and we'd go the other route so we wouldn't have to, we wouldn't have to bow. But the point being that a lot of the day was choreographed. And they were choreographed with these particular forms, kind of ritual forms you took. And they're quite powerful to live in. It requires a lot of mindfulness, and it requires a lot of presence. And some of these things you do with your body carry with them certain kind of attitudes, certain kind of feelings that affect you. For one, it's always done somewhat with intentionality and a certain kind of fullness. You're really there to do each thing. And so your sense of participating with your life comes alive in that kind of world. Because, you don't just sit back, I'll go to the Zendo when I feel like it and, stumble in and might really want to be here. And, you might have those thoughts, but your body has to really be there and participate. And putting your hands together like this and all those bows we do there, something, even if you don't want to bow, there's something about that movement that will probably affect a lot of people, maybe different people in different ways, but for me it developed a lot of gratitude, a sense of appreciation, and through the day, have these bows, you're doing them every day, so many times through the day, and for weeks and months on end, something begins to shift inside. The same thing is happening for most of you in everyday life, in all the little movements that you make in your body, in your voice, in your thing, and you're reinforcing something. So if you are going around kind of, just kind of like uninterested in life, and everything you do, you kind of do kind of like, oh, I'll get to it, oh, it's too hard, oh, who wants to do this? This is a drag, or why do we have to do this? all those little voices might have some value to them, but the sum total of that kind of attitude, it kind of dampens the energy. It kind of drains a person. It kind of doesn't bring a vitality and an engagement in life. It's more like keep pulling back, pulling back. And there's a lot of attitudes that we do in our life that we do, that we express in all kinds of small ways. And some of those are not so great. I know some people who have an aversive nature. And there's something about saying little aversive statements, or little resistant statements, that maybe one statement is okay, but to do them as many times as you bow in the monastery, they tend to create a habit, a momentum, a familiarity, a sense of, this is what I do. So it becomes almost second nature. You don't even think about it anymore, but have this little, pieces of aversion or pieces of something or something that goes on. So we're all in a Zen monastery. We just don't know it, in the sense that we're all doing something with our body, our voices, our eyes, that are expressing something or living something or carrying attitudes and beliefs and sense of relationships, and all kinds of things are being carried with it all the time. But most of us don't see most of what we carry, most of what we're doing. Don't see the impact that has on us. So when I left the monastery after 3 years, where so much of the life was choreographed, and it was kind of chosen for me, all kinds of things, when to wake up, when to go to the meditation hall, and when to do this and that, and how to do these things, and even eating was, most meals were carefully choreographed. Like you couldn't just pick up your spoon and start eating when you felt like it. You had to wait for a bell, and then you had to bow a certain way, you had to chant, you had to eat in a certain way, you had these very unusual kind of eating utensils a little bit. And so the whole thing was kind of choreographed. And what was marvelous about the eating in the monastery was we would eat in our meditation posture. And just taking that posture that we've been meditating in is very different than, sitting at the table, looking at the news, on your phone while you're shoveling food into your mouth, which probably none of you do. And you have to you're really there, and this is the activity of the moment. You don't bring your phone with you into the zendo. You're there. We didn't have phones then, but I'm sure that they're not allowed in. So 3 years of that. When I left, as soon as I left and came back to San Francisco, I recognized something. And this was the revelation, that now it's up to me to decide how to do all these things. And I had so much more choice than I ever imagined I had. So I went and talked to the abbot one day in a kind of formal discussion about practice. And I told him, wow, coming back to San Francisco, so many things are not choreographed anymore. I have a choice. And when I'm standing, I have a choice in how I stand. When I sit in a chair, I never thought I had a choice before. I just sat the way I sat. I didn't think about it. But I have 100% choice about how I sit in that chair. Do I slump? I've sat in couches so my shoulders were in the crack, all the way down, just just really chilled. So do I sit upright? Do I use the armrest? What do I do? And so I told him, I have a choice in how I sit in the chair. And the abbot did something very unusual. He broke the rituals. It broke the patterns of what you expect in a formal Zen setting. He's in robes, I'm in robes, we're sitting in meditation posture, having the serious conversation, maybe 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, I told him this, and he lifted out his hand and shook my hand. It was like, congratulations, you understood something really important now. I felt it was a real affirmation that I had a choice. I had a lot of choices to make. And I have much more choices to make in my life than I'd realized before I started the monastery. We have choices actually every moment of our life. We have choices. And if you don't see you have choices, you don't have choices. But if you see you have choices, does that mean now you have a burden? Oh, more choices to make. It's exhausting. But we're making the choices anyway. We're making the choices subconsciously. And the choices we make a difference. And so what Buddhist practice has a lot to do is recognizing the places of choice and learning to make wise choices, beneficial choices. And that involves something as small as how you sit in a chair. Something as small as how you stand, how you look, how you think, what you're thinking about. I was coming down here to talk about this, walking down here. So I was thinking about this. So it occurred to me, well, Gil, you have a choice now how you think about this. And as soon as I thought about that, okay, let me look and see, how am I thinking about talking about the choices we have? And I thought, I'm probably a little bit contracted in the mind, a little bit tense, a little stressful, because after all, I'm talking in front of all these people. And I don't have to do that. I don't have to be worried about what I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about this thing because I think it's important and helpful. What if I just shift how I think? And just think in an easy way and think about it from how it's helpful for people. And let me think in a way that's helpful for me. Let me think in a way that's beneficial for me. So I shifted how I was thinking, and it became really pleasant to think about giving this talk. I think I became a better person because of it. Then I had, the difference was not that great. The shift was, 1 degree or something. But right there was a choice in how I think about something. So one of the purposes of meditation in Buddhism is not to make you calm, and that's it. Not to give you some wonderful experience, and that's it. Not to make you peaceful, and that's it. But rather, one of the important roles of meditation is to help you into a little or better state of mind, of heart, of being than you were before you meditated. And I say this intentionally, just a little, so you don't have a high bar. It means that if you're feeling kind of lousy that day, and you just feel a little bit less lousy, you've made it a little bit better. So the bar is low. But you make yourself better than you are anyway, if you didn't meditate. And that way of feeling better now becomes a reference point for you to understand what kind of choices you want to make. How you want to now to go and do what you want to do next. Because you can see, if I don't do anything, if I don't pay attention here, that's a choice. If I don't pay attention here, just go back into all the things I have to do, pretty quickly I know all the demands and the difficulties I have, I'm going to feel lousy again. I'm going to feel really stressed out again. But, I have a choice here. Do I just go back, barrel ahead, and forget about my meditation? Or do I use this feeling better as a reference point and see, can I stay close to this? Can I be careful not to abandon it? What do I choose to do next so I stay closer to that, I maintain it a little bit? Well, maybe I get up and I don't rush. Maybe I get up and I don't pick up the most difficult thing to do. Maybe I get up and don't immediately check for emails, because that just pulls me back into that world. Maybe there's something worthwhile to maintain how I'm staying right now. And if I maintain it, not only maintain it, let me not forget this state. Let me stay close to it. I'm feeling better after all. Let's stay close to it. Now, is that selfish? Is that indulgent? It can be. But as you do this practice, you get more and more sensitive. That's the other purpose of mindfulness practice, is not only to give you a better reference point in which to understand your life, but it's also to show you, give you a much more acute sensitivity, attunement with yourself, that you see all the little choices you make. Oh, I don't have to do that. Right now, I'm kind of abandoning. Right now, I'm giving myself over to boredom, giving myself over to discouragement, giving myself over to desire. I'm giving myself over to the anger. Is that what I want to do when I'm feeling kind of calm to begin with? Is there another way of going about this next? Is another way of sitting? Is another way of standing? Another way of, whatever you're going to do. Is there a way of doing it that makes things better? Or at least keeps things as better as they've gotten to be? So this last week, in my morning teaching that I did, some of you know, the theme was, don't make it worse. And one of the things I tried to emphasize is that this little slogan, don't make it worse, whatever you're going to do, just simply don't make it worse, is very powerful. And it encompasses the profundity of the Buddha's teaching, if you really understand how far and deep this topic of don't make it worse can go. But the Buddha had more to say than don't make it worse. He said, make it better. And this is a central principle in the Buddha's teachings for how we live our lives, how we engage in our lives. Based on these two things, don't make it worse, make it better. He didn't use that language, that's colloquial English. His ancient way of talking about it, if I told you, would put you to sleep. Or worse, just like, oh my God, I can't believe all these words. Sometimes he was so precise and careful in what he was saying that he had a lot of words to do it, and it starts feeling kind of too technical or too something. And but I can give you a little bit better colloquial sense of what he said. He said, if you're making it worse, stop. If you're not making it worse, protect yourself from making it worse in the future. So that's a little bit more colloquial. And then he went on to say, if you're not making it better, start doing it. If you are making it better, and I think he loved making things better, because these first three, he said, stop, protect yourself from doing it, and start. But this fourth one, if you are making it better, he said, stay close to it, maintain it. Don't forget it. Don't lose track of it. Increase it. Make it, and it is a wonderful word in Pali, but make it abundant. What? Having better be abundant, sense of abundance? I mean, that's like, not being less grumpy. That's like something else. And then cultivate it and bring it to fulfillment. Bring it to its fullness. I mean, there's all these things. So that's what he was most into. If you could do the first three, that prepares the ground so you can really get involved in the last one. Isn't that good? So Buddhism is not just about not suffering. It's about cultivating and developing and growing and staying close to something you've learned for yourself that's wonderful. Something you've learned that's worth staying close to and developing. And that something is, and this is a very important part of this, is that when Buddha said, don't make it worse, make it better, absolutely it can apply to the world around you. But where we have the most choice, where we have the most opportunity to make a difference, is in ourselves. In the quality of our inner life, the quality of our heart, the quality of our mind, that what's happening there and how we're responding to the world and reacting to the world. That's where we have the most opportunity. We can't control the weather so well usually, but we can do the right thing. We can bring with an umbrella, for example. You can't necessarily prevent certain illnesses that happen, but you have some choice about how you relate to being sick. You can't necessarily choose, politics and what party is in office, but you can choose something about how that you allow that to affect your inner life, and what do you give yourself over to or abandon yourself to, as if it has to be that way, or there's authority to these feelings, these attitudes. There's the place we can make the most difference, where we have the most choice, is in ourselves. And one way I love how it plays out in life is that sometimes we have to make big choices in life. And it's hard sometimes to make those decisions. And sometimes there's no real way of knowing which is going to be the right decision, partly because we don't know what's coming. We don't know what that decision will, take us to a place in a time, a situation where things that are out of our control will happen and affect what happens. And so sometimes every decision is the right decision. Or, two different decisions both can be equally good. Who knows what the right one is? How some decisions have become right and wrong is not by the decision, but how we live with the decision. The choices we make after we make that decision, how we live with the consequences of it. And that's where we make the best of it. So we start taking responsibility for the choices we make. And the one that, again, the Buddha focused on the most for practitioners was how these decisions affect our inner life. And that's why meditation can be so helpful, because we're learning about the ins and outs of our inner life. We're learning about the operating principles of how we get caught, how we get reactive, the choices we make, the values we live by, the priorities we make, the biases we have. If you start being mindful, carefully mindful, and you have a vantage point of calm, a vantage point, a reference point of some degree of peace or well-being, and you pay careful attention what takes you away from that, boy, you'll learn a lot about yourself. And so one of the practices I recommend, when you finish meditating, appreciate whatever way you're a little better. And then try not to rush into your life right away. Pay attention and notice when you start losing that, when you're not feeling quite as calm or quite as settled, or a little bit now you're starting to rush and you're not paying so much careful attention anymore. So when you find yourself losing that, this is probably the most important moment in the wake of meditation. The moments you're losing what you had that felt good for you. At that moment, stop. Maybe sit down, close your eyes, just pause and take a good look. What just happened? What was I believing? What was my attitudes? What were the desires? What were the attitudes? What happened that I got caught now? So I'm rushing. What happened now? So now that I was fine, I felt confident, and now I feel discouraged. I was feeling peaceful, and now I'm agitated. I was feeling happy, and now I'm sad, depressed, despairing. What happened there in that interface? And it might happen so quickly that you might not see the first day, the second day. But at some point you say, oh, look at that. I felt that life was going to leave me behind, and I can't be left behind. All my friends will leave me behind if I don't answer all those emails. People will be angry with me. And that's what triggers me. That's what gets me caught. I have this belief, this little voice inside. Do I have to believe it? Is it true? Is there another thing that can be done? Is it worth the sacrifice? Is it worth giving up feeling better for feeling worse? And just that question, is it better to give up feeling better for feeling worse, is a powerful question to ask yourself. And if the lawyers of the mind come and explain to you all the reasons why you have to be worse, you have to put up with it because, you better question that. You better get a new lawyer and, bring it to the court and really have a discussion. And what we learn over time, I hope, is that we learn to cultivate a healthy inner life and learn how to stay close to that and value it and see how many benefits come from it. And we learn to recognize when the inner life feels healthy and not. So then the Buddha, when he had this teaching about stop, prevent making it worse, initiate making it better, and then keep making it better, what he actually said was not worse and better. He used a word in ancient language that can usually translate into English in two different ways. One is, it translates as skillful. And skillful also can mean ethical. Is it avoiding causing harm? Is it doing the opposite of causing harm, bringing benefit? So skillful. Is it skillful? But it's also translated into English as wholesome. Is it wholesome or unwholesome? And that really takes you into yourself. Does it feel like a right, wholesome, healthy, beneficial, skillful, ethical thing to do? We have an inner reference point, the inner sensitivity to feel when something feeds us and nourishes us and makes us feel better and makes us feel freer and more alive in a good way. And we have a capacity to feel when we does the opposite. When this feels unwholesome, it denourishes me, it undermines me, it drains me, it makes me smaller or contracted or tighter or makes me feel kind of stressed by what's going on in the inner life. So we don't always know how to make the world around us better. We don't always know when we're making it worse, maybe unconsciously or by accident, unintentionally. But we can track it for ourselves. And we can, and it's invaluable to do that. And to start doing that in a way, so that you start slowly, but start doing it so it becomes second nature. So that, and this is what's happened to me over these years of practice, so much of this is just second nature. It's like riding a bicycle. Your whole body and mind makes a lot of teeny decisions on the whole bike ride. Leaning this way, that way, going faster, slower, shifting the weight of your body, where to look, and but it's second nature to do it after a while. When you first start, it's stressful, but after a while, it's actually relaxing to do it, to be that fully engaged and participate in your life with something you have mastery over. It's possible to develop mastery over all these decisions you do throughout the day, how you stand, how you sit, how you look at somebody, how you're with someone. I've learned, at some point in that Zen practice, I learned that how I was with people was not there, present, attentive, available, receptive. I was turning away, feeling embarrassed, feeling shy, feeling afraid, feeling like I didn't know what I was supposed to do and I had to be really small. was all these ways in which I was present for other people that I didn't know. But the Zen training, partly because in Zen you're sitting every day many hours in an upright, open-chested, firm meditation posture. And so after a while, with that reference point, I could see when I collapsed. I could see when I turned my body away. I could see all these little cues that represented not a good way to be with other people. And I learned, what if I just there? Relaxed, full, open. It's really nice. I saw someone this weekend, this last few days, who was kind of facilitating a very difficult conversation with a group of people. And she had those qualities in her. It was remarkable. Every difficult thing that was thrown at her, she was just there and thank you and just like, okay. And she didn't cringe, she didn't pull down, she didn't get defensive, she didn't get like trying to apologize in some kind of inappropriate way, or, she's just, oh, okay, well now we'll take this into account, okay. And it felt so friendly and so caring. And this is someone who had practiced for years, that she had that ability. And it felt to me like it was second nature. So, in summary, there's something really powerful, very profound in this simple statement, make it better. And to use that as a guideline as you go through, don't forget that as you go through your life. If that's too much for you, if that's too saccharine and too idealistic and too I don't deserve it, well then the next best thing is don't make it worse. At least don't make it worse. But you can make it better. And one of the purposes of meditation is to give you the information, give you a reference point for better, so you know how to do this in your daily life. You have a guide, you have a support, you have a reference point for it. And don't look for grand spirituality. Don't look for the big bang experiences of enlightenment. Don't look for, great states of peace. Build towards that with little, one drop at a time, with one little moment at a time, in these little details of how you live your life, of how you stand, how you sit, how you walk, how you speak, how you listen, how you engage with your computer, with your device. So many people lose themselves in those. And you've probably seen a lot of people out in the world that are completely lost and absorbed in a way that doesn't seem good. Of course, you don't do that, right? Pay attention. Pay attention to how you make things worse. At least try to stop that. Try to make it better. And you don't just do it for yourself. You do it for the world. Because the more that you learn to do this for yourself, the more you're available to the world in a good way. When you cultivate and develop the wholesome in yourself, that wholesome spills out as wholesome interactions, wholesome ways of being in the world with other people. If we do what's unwholesome for us, denourishes us, it's hard to then come back to the world in ways that benefit the world as well. So with all this, I hope now you appreciate this little slogan, make it better, and you see the value of that. So it's well before the usual official ending time. Here at 10:45 is when we end. And we have tea today. So I think it would be nice if those of you who would be happy enough to do this, that you would introduce yourself to a couple of people next to you and maybe have a little conversation about, did any of this talk have any meaning for you? was any reference point in your life for how this could be useful. And you might consider, as you have that conversation, that very principle. So it's very easy for some of us, and include myself, to respond to things with, "That's not going to work. That's not right," And then it's true, if you believe that. But there might be one circumstance in your life where what I taught about today will be beneficial for you. If you only look at how that doesn't work, I don't believe in what he had to say. Well, that's okay. I don't want to take that away from you. But even if it was one circumstance once in your 100 years of your life that this teaching is useful, then you'll benefit from this teaching. So that's what So maybe you can try to benefit from the conversation by talking about how it might be useful for you. But you don't have to if you don't want to. So anyway, it's mostly just say hello, and we have a tea, so it's nice for people who are new to be met with someone and welcomed and included here and meet someone, and that way, maybe you want to stay for the tea and continue your conversations. So we'll have probably about 5 minutes just to chat and talk and look around so that no one's left kind of sitting alone. To just look around and invite them into your group or whatever. And then and I'll ring a bell at some point so we have an official ending, and then we can go have tea together. Thank you. So